Okay. Whoop. We're recording.
Hey. Recording. We're just having a casual brainstorm.
Right. So we're saying Minotaurs are kind of, their race is kind of like an autistic savant.
Yeah, they're like so single-minded in their focus and like the thing that they deal with that well we were just sort of, I was suggesting the concept that if you even want to interact with them, you know, if you want to interrupt them while they're doing the thing they want to do, you know, then you need to kind of speak to them in a way that they can kind of, you know,
speak to them on their level.
Right. So if you're talking to this blacksmith, you have to kind of be like, hey, you know, look, here's the situation. So-and-so basically has my hammer, and like, I've got their anvil, and we need to make a trade. And they'll be like, I got you. Like, okay, we can... But they're just not going to be interested. You know, it's not like they're dumb. They're just like not interested.
Yes.
Or they just forget. I don't know. Or maybe both. Maybe they forget because they're not that interested.
Yeah, you did mention they forget easily the things that aren't related to their one area of interest.
Right. Yeah,
Yes,
sort of
yes.
working off that savant thing. And I think that would be kind of interesting because when the players are interacting with that Minotaur, there's going to be funny moments, I think, where that will also kind of feel natural. They'll be funny without trying to be funny, where the Minotaur is just like, what are you... like has no memory of something that they're trying to be like, don't you remember me? Like, they're like, no, I've just been hammering. I've just been working on my latest, you know, breastplate or greaves or something like that. So I think that's just a thought from Minotaurs.
I mean, I think you got Minotaur down pretty much. Anything else you want to cover with this character? Oh, I've also labeled like what their proficiency bonus is, and then highlighted in green what they're proficient in. So you just take, I reformatted this, and to me it makes so much more sense in my brain to do it like this than to have it all in a single roll, jumbled up.
Gotcha.
That's just me. Yeah.
And so it's like 4 plus 2, 2 plus
Right.
2. Okay.
You just add your proficiency bonus to what you're. Yeah.
Okay.
It's very like I didn't have to tell you that. You picked that up on your own. See,
Yep.
it's very
It's intuitive.
Yeah,
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to go back to Bordello quick and cover Tabaxi?
Sure.
So the way I had imagined Tabaxi was just very much like a cat, a little aloof, graceful, elegant. She is very charismatic. That's her highest stat is in charisma, and she's proficient in like everything because that's her whole shtick.
Okay. She's like a charisma character.
Yeah, that's not necessarily Tabaxi related. That's more with her specifically.
Right.
Her natural traits of elegance.
What is the culture of Tabaxi?
The culture of Tabaxi.
I'm getting kind of like Mediterranean vibes from...
Mediterranean? Well,
like what are we...
With her background, she was born into a family of Tabaxi traders and quickly discovered that she had a talent for negotiation and persuasion. So I imagine she was a bit of a nomad. Her family had like a caravan, and they would travel from place to place, trading their goods and their wares and stuff. A bit of more... yeah.
You've never played any Elder Scrolls games.
No. Wait, which Elder Scrolls...
Well, it's just funny because there's like a race of nomadic trading catfolk called the Khajiit.
Oh! Okay. I've played Assassin's Creed Black Flag, right? And I ran into a Khajiit, and they were just in the forest, and they were like, hey, do you want to buy some of our goods? But I didn't really, that's all I've experienced with that race.
What?
That's it.
You ran into an Elder Scrolls Khajiit in Black Flag?
I think it was Black Flag. It was either Black Flag, because I think that's the only one I've played. Maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe
I'm getting it
Khajiit is like a name of like a real culture or something. I don't really know.
Or Or maybe it wasn't Khajiit, it was just a like cat person. Howdy. I'm not sure.
What's up, Julie?
How's it going?
How are you today?
Chillin'.
Would you like a hit?
Sure.
It matches you today.
We do. This is my lazy summer shirt.
How are you doing?
I just took my second to last final.
Get back to recording.
Oh,
we were
Tabaxi. We were talking about
Tabaxi,
Khajiit.
that's right.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Okay, it was okay. It was 2 Assassin's Creed. It was Black Flag, and it came in a 3-pack. And I've only played a little bit of both of them. Black Flag and one other one. It was in a city. It was like a famous city. Maybe like Roman. No, not Roman. Like religious. A religious city.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I played a little bit of the Assassin's Creed games, but after running around stopped being like a thrill. I just kind of like put them down one day and never picked them back up. Because it was like, go here, do this thing. Go here, do this thing.
I kind of love it. I love that I get to go wherever I want, whenever I want.
The free roaming like that.
I do love it, yeah.
Have you ever played other open world games where you can like kind of go anywhere? I feel like you would really love the Elder Scrolls games.
I'm not. If it involves using both joysticks, I'm not good at it. I'm not, because like I'm the person that's like looking up and turning. Like, how do I look in the right direction?
Right.
I'm that person, pretty much.
Right.
So the reason why I liked Assassin's Creed is like you can lock onto your target. Like it does that movement for you.
Well, if you PC game, you can use WASD and use your mouse to look instead of like a controller.
That is true. I would want to get a different computer. This computer's getting on probably towards the end of its life. So next computer I get, it's going to be more capable for gaming for sure.
Get a desktop because you can't upgrade laptops. And so like the thing about laptops is they're nice because you can like move upstairs, move downstairs. But the thing about desktops is if something goes bad on your desktop, like your desktop starts going slow, something like that, 6 years go by, it starts becoming old and obsolete, you just pop in a new part for like $300, $400, well, $500, something like that, as opposed to buying like a whole new $1,300 computer.
Are you gonna take that apart on the counter? I have no problem with it. I was just gonna say I think there's some wet spots on the counter, so you might want to wipe it off first. That's all I was gonna say. I don't have a problem. I know water and computers don't go very well together. I know that for certain.
Yeah. I think I'll keep an eye out.
Yeah. Okay, right.
Okay, so anyways.
So I imagine that, well, if it's too much of an Elder Scrolls, is that like a copy of Elder Scrolls? Like
No. In fact,
nomadic Tabaxi?
it's actually a culture that I like a lot, and it's very, for me, it's very vivid and evocative because it's so fleshed out. You know? They've got like these like strong Spanish accents. The Shroud spoke like more like a G.
Maybe she could have that accent.
I feel like everybody would know what they were dealing with. They're like, okay, this is like a G, like it works, like. But if you had like, because they can like double time, right? Where they like run super fast as like a race
They
thing.
can, yes. I considered being a Tabaxi for the one shot with my Warforged monk, but I went with Warforged.
I think a grappling build on Tabaxi would be insane. It would be insane because you could just drag someone all over
Like
the
a
place.
predator.
Yeah,
Those canines.
just completely negates your dragging move penalty.
That would be a fun build. One thing about all the characters in this town is that they don't really fit in totally with their race. Not that they've been excommunicated or anything like that, but there's something about them that makes them stand out with their race. With her, it would be the fact that she's no longer nomadic. She's found a town where she can make a business and she can like create this welcoming atmosphere for other people, and she loves it. So she's staying.
So for her race, it's unusual to see their race like setting up shop in a permanent spot. Okay, interesting. And
with
why
her-
is she staying here?
She's found a good business. So her background is like she left her family just to kind of go off on her own and make her own way. But within that time, she experienced a lot of, I don't know, negativity, a lot of hate, or a lot of just, what is this? You know, conflict that she hadn't with her family. So then when she found this town, it was like, I can create a space that's welcoming the way my family was welcoming the way I grew up. And people will continually come and like get to experience this. And she kind of just loves providing that for people. So she decided to stay and have people come to her as opposed to her going out to people.
Okay, interesting. So,
Which is, I don't know. Yeah, go ahead.
so a lot of people must pass through. Okay.
This is a town that's known for exceptional people and exceptional products.
Really?
Yeah, because of the Great Salifax mountain range, Old Sally.
Cool, if we shut the window, just so it's...
Yeah, go ahead and shut that. That's the one that's open. Yeah. Good thinking. Good looking out. You're right. That's much better.
Cool. Yeah, I was kind of under the impression this was like a little old town somewhere.
Well, it kind of is.
Little old mining town.
It's like this
Coalwood.
This is the Great Salifax Mountain Range. Within this range are amazing gems. Like there's coal. There's a huge coal area right here where they mine for that. There's gems and other sorts of resources within the mountain that the dwarven miners mine out and then supply to the town. And then that is what attracts so many people to the town. And because of that, places like the Bordello, which is what Nora runs, have become well known. Because that's where they stay and that's where they go when they come and visit this town.
So the Bordello is like an inn.
The Bordello is more of like a bathhouse, sex house kind of place.
Okay.
Multiple forms of entertainment
Okay.
are provided there.
Right.
The In and Out Inn is like a bar and an inn. Bar on the lower level, including a fight ring where Rusty hosts his thing. And then on the second level, it could even be a third level. There could even be a 3-story. Second and third, the upper levels are rooms that people can sleep in.
Okay. When I hear bathhouse, sex house, I think these people are probably like information brokers to some extent too, because they're probably get people drunk and entertain them and charm them and learn.
That is precisely how I built her. I wanted her to have good insight and a good way to get information from people, and I figured all that was perfect for that. So we're on the same wavelength.
So does Nora operates the Bordello? She's like the proprietor, the owner.
Yeah, she's like the owner of the Bordello.
Yeah, owner. So what does she want? Because she's clearly powerful. Even if she's not like a town official, she must have some standing if everybody passes through.
Perhaps influence of the governor's ear.
What is something she wants that she's having trouble getting?
That's a good question. That's the thing I always have a hard time coming up. I can come up with all the good parts of a character and then whatever they want, a flaw, that's where I have trouble creating. So I'm not sure what she wants. That's a good question.
The advice that I had heard for like starting any story was somebody wants something and they're having trouble getting it.
Yes. Yes.
I was like, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
you have it. I thought you were asking me for it.
No, I asked
Oh,
if I
you're
could
saying.
hit it.
Got you. Oh shit! I don't know where it is. Okay, so.
So I'm not sure what she wants.
Cause like I'm thinking, Memoirs of a Geisha, Spirited Away. What was the witch's name? Bazolda or something?
I'd have to rewatch both of those because,
Damn.
first of all, Spirit Away, I've never seen the whole thing.
You've never? Oh,
I've never seen the whole thing.
Goodness.
Eh.
We have to watch Spirited Away. It's so good. Emily would love watching Spirited Away with you.
We should do it sometime.
We should totally do that.
And Memoirs of a Geisha, I saw it, but it was in like 9th grade, so it's been a long time.
I haven't seen it in a long time, but
Yeah.
I read the book. And
Okay, I
enjoyed
didn't
the book.
even know it was a book.
Yeah, it was like a book that got adapted to a film.
Okay.
But
That's
yeah,
still good.
so interesting. So the bordello, looking at this map, is one of the first things people come across.
So the thing is, the outside road that leads to this place, just imagine it comes up from here and then it comes to the in and out end. So you have the town's guard and the watchtower positioned here. People don't normally go straight to the bordello because there's like, there would have interference run.
Right.
And then
right.
they would be directed to the town's guard where they would do a check-in sort of thing, and then they come into the town.
Right, they move by a road, but the road only goes one of two places from the in and out end.
It goes either here or here. So you're right. The bordello would be the next thing that they most likely run into.
How big are these three spaces?
I imagined them to be quite vast, but it was hard to capture that with the size of the map I was given when I was designing. Quite vast.
So if they're quite vast, that means that the bordello is actually pretty isolated. The in and out inn and the bordello
Oh, I hadn't even considered
are
that.
kind of like these two major stopping points along the road, right? Because if all of this is like forest, then this is like kingdom sized almost. Like this is like a. Does that make sense? Like all
Yes.
these guard stations along the way, especially if this is like a whole ass mountain range. Like this is probably like
This
a
is
pretty
giant.
sizable space.
I didn't even realize how big it was until you. Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
and like,
Oh, this is the old picture.
is it the old picture?
It is the old picture. I'm gonna get the new picture. But continue.
Well, we can play with the proportions too, but like if you look at the size of some of that central forest space, it's almost the size of their farmland, which kind of suggests that they have like a thriving rural culture.
Here we go. It's a new picture. I can tell
Whoa.
because there's snow and the fog is gone because the dragons have been defeated. That's also in their history now. The fact that heroes came to town and rid their town of 2 dragons.
2 dragons.
Which means, canonically, Oltworth was kidnapped by the Green Dragon. So there's history between Oltworth and Grizz. They're married.
Grizz is.
Grizz Oakheart, he's the barkeep. He is. We'll get to him because we're kind of going through character.
The character relationships will have to like kind of come to me because they're like,
No
oh,
problem.
okay, this
This has
person
been-
knows this person.
This has been stewing in my brain for like 3 weeks, so I feel so happy. I'm so excited about this. Okay, so covering the board, do you feel pretty good about Nora's race to Baxi?
I feel good about her race. I'm now a lot more interested in the bordello as a faction. As like they're powerful enough that and probably rich enough that they don't have to really.
They don't rely on the town.
They don't rely on Triforge, and they don't really rely on Coalwood. And they're powerful. People come to them because they're information brokers.
That's amazing.
So,
That's fantastic.
So what do they want? You know,
They definitely want the governor's ear. That's my first impression.
They
The
want
governor
political power.
stays right next to the farming stuff. Kind of like it's like a country. You have like the nice farm in the background when you look out your window.
Okay, interesting.
Um,
So what about this cluster up here? These
these things.
the
up
in and
here?
out in the
So,
watchtower.
you wanna
and
go
the
through
town
those
guard. That's like the
characters?
front gate and the
Okay.
inn.
Let's take a look at Townsguard 1. At Townsguard 1, you are going to find down here 2 people. Well, actually several people. You'll find Magnus Abernathy. He is the captain and leader of the town. You see he has this headset thing. I imagine that's a magical communication device so he can keep in communication with all the people under his employ.
Okay.
He co-leads the guard with Torvald Crow. Torvald specializes in training and defense, and then Magnus specializes in tactical offense. So they really pair well with each other.
Interesting.
The story between them is he's human. She is, I think she's half orc or might be full orc. He's very proper and together and is always pristine in his uniform. And whenever they came together to work together, she barely wore any clothes and he couldn't stand it because it wasn't official. And so he keeps trying to coax her to wear more clothes, not to cover up, but just to have
refine her.
Refine her, yeah. So this is the closest that he's been able to get her to a uniform, and he's like, okay, I can work with this.
Like a mantle.
Yeah.
An official's mantle or something on her shoulders.
Right, and
Okay.
that's the thing. They all have the same mantle as well. That is part of their uniform. There's also, so these are the 2 leaders. She's the fighter. She's proficient in all these weapons that she has on her. So she's the fighting one. You also have the towns.
She's the defensive one, right?
I think so. Yes. And then you have just the town's guard. This is their uniform. That they're going to be stationed at every town's guard throughout. The reason why Magnus and Torvald are at town's guard 1 specifically is because that's where people enter. That's where people are kind of vetted before they come into the town. Not vetted, but it's just like a sign here. We have your name, sort of.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why, this area, whoever's in charge would want to know who's entering. Especially if there's a secured perimeter, you're going to want to know. Actually, that's really interesting because if there's a secured perimeter and they're tracking who comes through, which a country would want to do that sort of thing just to know what sort of goods are being brought into our land, what sort of people are entering our land, how many people are here, So that probably means that there's smugglers who are, who get paid to bring things in. And my guess is because these are here, these smugglers, their best bet is likely trying to smuggle in through these points here. What is down here? Is this forest? Is it
Down here?
kind of a circle?
I kind of imagined everything around here to just be forest. That's kind of how I imagined it. The rest is forest.
Okay, so we'll just say secured forested perimeter around the outside here.
And yeah, because there's a town's guard there, 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 and there, and there. And I imagine they're off map. There's probably one on the outside of the farm. But the farmer's respite also has the dog folk to help keep guard on this end.
These towns guards, I imagine there would probably be some here, and around the outside of Triforge as well.
Agreed.
Although I would say, because of the mountains, they'd probably be safe tapering off some of this, particularly because this is all a dam. Actually, that would be kind of interesting if they did that, because that would be an extremely dangerous and also the least towns guardy smuggling route, but you would have to go through the mountains. So you can either smuggle from here and try and cut across the roads past like the outside perimeter, or you push over the mountains and then come by road as if you were already inside the kingdom, or whatever this is. The town, city, territory.
Territory, that's good. Yeah. Territory of Coalwood.
Coalwood.
Yeah, I like that.
Coalwood.
So let me kind of keep showing you
Okay, so
who you're gonna meet.
We have smugglers, a bathhouse faction. What else do we have? I guess we just have those two so far.
So far.
Okay.
Cool. I've also created different. These are all NPC names that you can use for any of the town's guard. Hey, what's their name? Cordelia Gaius is their name.
Perfect.
So that's who all's at the town guard. Yeah. Oh, I created another one just in case. For the watchtower, because the watchtower, I think you're gonna like this right there. And there's watchtowers, placed all throughout. You're gonna like this. You're gonna like this. Take a look at who's at the watchtower. What kind of race do you think is at the watchtower?
Something that seems really well.
Oh, I guess I haven't written an intro for that yet. We've got Raven folk or Aarakocra
Right.
at the watchtower. Here's the thing. We have these guys for the day shift. For the night shift, we have Owlin. On both shifts, you're gonna have this guy right here. This is a gnome rogue scout. So you've got the air and land covered. You also have this right here. So I'm talking into it. It's like a little egg that they carry with them. These guys also have it. And these guys also have it. It's their communication device. It's how they communicate between each other.
They have walkie-talkies.
Essentially.
Okay.
Stone message
Stones, right. Okay.
Essentially, these guys carry a crossbow. Night shift also carries a crossbow. Other than that, they don't really carry much because they got to stay light and quiet.
So the town's guard is racially optimized.
Yes.
Interesting.
And this is the watchtower guard. There's town's guard and watchtower guard. They're both, I think, racially optimized.
Interesting. Okay. So that, because them being, the town being set up in which these races, like as a whole, are being utilized in this way, suggests a culture where these races must have like gotten together and said like, hey, this is what we're gonna
I've thought about that.
We're gonna do it. And we're gonna have this role and you guys are gonna have this role.
I thought about that, and I kind of feel like the way that was born, and like, let's play with this because this is still growing, is that this town was originally just like a few houses and a small farm, and then like people slowly started to find sanctuary in this town for some reason or other. And one day an owlin shows up and they want to live there, and the town accepts him. So the owlin says, okay, how can I contribute? You're like, I don't know, let's find a place for you. So over time, all these people found places for where they fit best in this town.
And it sort of became a great melting pot, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So does that mean that this sort of racial diversity is uncommon in the outside world?
That's part of the appeal of the town.
Okay.
Because that's precisely right.
So like races are more what's the fucking word for it? Homogeneous? Where they're like all the same race. You know what I'm talking about? Like outside of
Halfling
this.
towns, elven towns, human towns.
Okay. So
That's another appeal of Coalwood.
So. So all of the avians. What portion of the town's guard consists of avians? Or like avian creatures?
The watchtowers. So. That's a town's guard. Watchtower. You have 3 main watchtowers. 2 Aarakocra, 2 Owlin per watchtower per shift. Including a gnome rogue scout per shift. Should I write it?
What if... And there's a gnome rogue scout per shift.
To cover the land. I've also considered having 1 town's guard per shift to be like the brute force, should brute force be needed. But they're like the backup. They sit in the tower and just wait while the others scout and relay information.
What if the watchtowers were really big and really tall, and there were like a lot of Aarakocra and a lot of these Owlkin in there, and there was like, because they can so freely just fly about, you know, that, and particularly because they're kind of this, they're similar races, right? And they don't really hang out with the other guards. They kind of hang out by themselves over these watchtowers. It makes me think of like, what if there was a sort of cultural distinction where there's like the regular guards and then there's like the avians that watch everybody from like way up top, and the only place you can like actually go to find them is at one of these watchtowers. But it's like, I almost kind of like the idea that like the regular town guards are like a little creeped out by the avians because they've got this like eye in the sky thing going on, and they all hang out together. And I feel like maybe like just a sense of unease. Like yeah,
Big
we're
Brother,
all on the same side, yeah, but like kind of a Big Brother kind of thing. But like, you ever notice that they're watching all of us, and
You ever notice how they don't blink ever?
they don't blink and they're always up there. You can always see them.
There's
and,
always way up there something circling and just watching.
and if you look up, they see you look up at them. Ooh, I like it. So it sets up this. It sets up the idea that they could be up to something if we wanted them to be.
If you want them to be. They do report to the town and keep the town safe, so they do have a tie to the town
Right.
and a loyalty to it.
They
Even
also
if
have power.
They do have power. They do.
Where do they stand among the other guard? Excuse me.
Among the other guards?
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean by where do they stand?
Like, are they of equal rank or standing or regard as the other guards?
That's a good question. I imagine they are of equal standing. However, the avian races view themselves as not superior, but no, maybe a little superior because they know and the town's guard know if we want to get away, like we can get away. There's nothing stopping us.
I kind of like that because that slight superiority where it's like never overtly stated but like implied is like kind of enough to make everyone a little uneasy about these people that are always watching them. But they've got your back. But,
Yeah.
But they see you and
Watching.
but they're watching, you know.
And they can leave whenever they want.
You can't
Like
catch
there's
them.
yep.
Yeah.
You can't stop them.
A little creepy.
Yeah.
A little creepy. And they're both these avian races. Like, why did these races take up this role? And like, how did that really start? Like,
I imagine maybe it started with like an owlin or an Aarakocra seeking refuge, and they found refuge in the town.
It was a good thing. That's right.
And then maybe they were like, okay, as they were flying about in the sky, maybe they came across another one of their race, or maybe an owlin discovered an Aarakocra. I always have such a hard time with that one.
So, what are the races like?
What are their races like?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
I saw this movie.
Yes.
I want to say it's either A Bug's Life or Ants.
I know both.
There's like a bird chase scene where the bird
A
is
Bug's
like
Life. It's A
kind
Bug's
of
Life.
scary.
Yes.
And I've always kind of like thought that like kind of cold, quick,
Calculated.
cocked eye, turn their head sideways and they're looking at you kind of thing was like a little eerie.
That's a fun. When you have their full attention, you don't want their full attention because like they're looking at you like that.
Yeah. Interesting. So
I haven't thought about their races much, other than their abilities, their natural abilities.
well, again, we have these watchtower guards, which are sort of here for the safety of everybody. Again, have access to a lot of really interesting information. And there's a lot of violation of privacy, if you think about it, that's going on
That could be going.
with these. Yeah, true. Well, I just mean like the civilians could have mixed feelings about it.
Yes.
Basically,
Yes.
being like, well, we've got those fucking, they're. It's nice that they're there, in case the dragons ever come back.
Their protection comes with a price.
Yeah, but like if you go on a picnic, you can like, that they know where you are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Interesting. So and because they're integrated as part of the guard, they're supposed to be there. They're the good guys.
I just thought of something.
What?
The gnome rogue scouts, are one of the few that can hide from the Aarakocra in the avian races.
Ooh, I like that. That's so good.
I don't know what kind of extra layer that gives you, but
They just blend in.
because they're actually like, if you look at a picture of them, they look like the forest around them. Pull up that picture. Like their skin is kind of a greenish shade, and it turns into a little bit of brown around the ears to look like tree or moss or plant life.
Well, that's interesting because it takes the map and it says this race is actually more interested in being in the or not necessarily more interested, but like you'll find a lot of these gnomes maybe like outside the city areas in addition to inside the cities. They'll be more like in the forests and stuff like that.
I imagined this race to be native to the local forests, so they know the grounds as well. That's how I imagined it. We don't have to run with that, but
Wait, so they're native to the local forest?
that's how I imagined it, and that's why I
interesting.
imagined them to be this color. Like specifically, like evolutionarily, they were kind of primed to blend in with this environment.
Right. Okay.
Again, we don't have to go with that.
No,
That's just-
that actually, I feel like that still keeps really well in keeping with all the other stuff. Because again, we're setting up. We've got our spy faction up in the north, the information gatherers at the bathhouse, and they've got power. They're rich, And then we have this sect of the town guard who's like got eyes on everybody. And then we've got this other race within the town guard that's like in a different branch, a different sect of the town guard, because these guys can't fly, right?
Mm-hmm. They're ground.
But they can hide from the other branch of the town guard,
Yep.
which, like, I could just, there's so much potential for, like, tension between those two parties, which are both have a lot of power within, And I'm sure these gnomes, you know, they're small in an urban setting, but once you put them out there where they're just invisible,
Yeah.
you know, they're just as deadly as anything else.
Yep.
Interesting. Okay. So what's the difference between a gnome and a halfling?
I think I only have one halfling character in this. Jupiter, the In-N-Out Inn, the Stables, Triforge. The Woodland Cobbler, that's a gnome as well. The only halfling I have is Gordon. Remy.
Golden.
I decided to name him Remy Gordon because Gordon Remy was too on the nose. This is a little bit better. This is just a little bit. So, what do you mean by how are they different? Is that what you asked?
Yeah, so like how are they like racially, culturally distinct? Because I guess gnomes, at this point, it sounds like they're like kind of leaning more into that forest fae kind of upbringing or background rather.
Well, here's the thing. Remy Gordon is a gnome, or excuse me, a halfling, and then the other character that is a gnome but could be a halfling. Oh, I need to click on it. Is Felix Honeydew. He is the gnome cobbler of the town.
That guy is a fucking badass. This is a cool dude. You can just fucking tell. Look at this guy.
He is very family oriented. He usually has at least three of his kids in the shop with him at a time. They'll help out or cause chaos depending on which kid it is,
Okay.
But he's also a gnome, but I could change him to a halfling so that Remy and Felix are halflings and maybe they're more family oriented and there's a greater emphasis on loyalty because that's how Remy is. But right as of now, he's a gnome, not a forest gnome though.
But a gnome.
A gnome, right? So he is not local to the town.
So what's the skinny on halflings then?
I don't know.
Are there fewer halflings than there are Aarakocra and
Yes.
Alkin?
Yes.
So there's like a disparity in like the size of the races present within Coalwood. So what is there most of in Coalwood? Humans? Dwarves?
Dwarves by far. I would say because it's dwarves that work the Triforge, it's dwarves that supply all the goods. The governor of Coalwood is a dwarf. I imagined Zim is a dwarf.
Okay.
And then I'd say perhaps the second most common race would be probably the other locals, the forest gnomes, but still not nearly as populated as dwarves.
I have been kind of messing around with the idea of dwarves in my campaign to sort of try and lean away from classic dwarves. Just as far as like their racial design, I think they could retain a lot of like the typical dwarven stuff. But I almost want to lean into dwarves as like not full on like rock fae, but like almost like dwarves are to mountains as forest gnomes are to forest. Do you know what I mean?
I'd like to show you another picture. Because I think you and I might be on the same page here. I'm about to load that up. It was just getting a little cloggy. So, let's take a look at the Triforge. Here you'll find your prospectors. It's hard to tell, but they are an extremely light shade of purple. And because of their shading, they blend into like the darkness of the mountain. Their eyes are also, you can't really see, but it's almost like an animal at night. You know, the way that they like light up. They do not do well in bright sunlight. When they come up and they go to the bordello, like they'll stay in a dark part of the bordello.
Interesting. So they just walk around in the dark.
And they can see fine.
See just fine.
Just fine.
Oh, so eerie.
They're also like, I designed this black on their skin to look like coal and look like they're dirty, but that could just be what their skin looks like to kind of blend in with the rock behind them. That could just be how they are.
Okay.
In retrospect, we have retrospect. That's not the word I wanted. I don't know what word I was looking for. We have these guys are dwarves as well. Their skin is a lot darker though because they usually stay above ground and they have more access to sunlight. They still have dark vision, but it's not nearly as good as the prospector's dark vision. They have more color in their hair again because they get more sunlight. And they're more geared towards like artificers and like tinkerers because once the prospectors mine and get the materials, these guys are the ones that mold them and shape them and build things.
Interesting.
And refine.
Interesting. Are these like two different branches of the same clan of dwarves?
Yeah, sort of.
That
They're both
maybe
dwarves.
changed
They're
over
both the same
time
type.
or something?
It's
Because these have like genetic differences from the sound of it. They have like their lights, or is it just something that happens to a dwarf over a few months as their eyes adjust and they just straight up can't see as well in the dark anymore for a little while until they adjust back? Or because like I can also see the Triforge.
I imagine it kind of like cousins. They're like cousin dwarves.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's like one. So is it like one big family, or is it like two, or like two branches of like an ages long old legacy or clan?
That's
you know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like we're all related, but like it's so far up the chain that like, it doesn't.
But they're still a unit, and they
Right.
stick to what they're good at. Again.
Right. They've got like this huge testament, you know, who built the Triforge? Where'd the Triforge come from? 'Cause it's like humongous, right? It's like
it's really big. The Triforge is actually, if you look at how big it is, it's quite large. Look at how big it is compared to the mountains. These are lower elevation mountains, but I take it back. Maybe it's not as big as the mountains, but it's huge. Quite large. So who built it? Obviously the dwarves built it. Of course the dwarves built it. I would say the Triforge is a very, very, very old structure that has withstood the test of time, is still working, has been working for generations that these dwarves have been here.
So, World of Warcraft has a city called Ironforge, which the dwarves built into a mountain, and the whole city is like this huge forge in the middle, right? And the city is sort of circular and goes around. And it honestly looks a lot like that.
I'm like ripping from video games without having any clue.
No, but it's
clue.
great. It's great because like the thing is, that's just the content that, you know, my personal upbringing draws on, but it's very clear for me. And so that's why when I saw the Triforge, I was like, that thing's humongous. It's bigger than all of these like little buildings where I assume people live in, you know.
Those were actually mini forges.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I imagine the Triforge, like, the best of the best materials go through the Triforge, and then the other materials get sorted into these different forges.
So there's an industry for mining everything out, an industry for, I assume, processing and like the sale of raw materials, the forging itself, and then the sale of things that are produced in Triforge. So like, who sells the stuff that goes from here, presumably back to here?
Hold on, let me see something real quick. What does that say? Oh, it is. Oh. Okay. And we've only been recording for 50 minutes.
50?
Yeah.
Nice. That means it would only take 25 minutes to listen to this at double speed.
Right. Okay, so, what were we talking about? I'm sorry.
All of the different industries involved.
Oh yeah, 2 cells. That's what you asked.
We basically have what sounds to me like a city that is like a high tier production. It's like the Silicon Valley of fucking cutting edge sword smithing techniques. And swords produced in Triforge like cleave through the blades of other swords.
Okay, so let me clarify something, but then build off of it.
Okay.
So, the materials that they get, the rubies, the emeralds, the coal, all the different rock, different stone that people use to build their homes with, it gets, the best of the best gets refined here. Not created into other things, but just refined.
Only refined.
Refined. And the best of the best go here, and then the others go to these different forges where they're refined there. And then I imagine those materials get shipped out to here where people like Jupiter and the Cobbler and there's other places in town. Why aren't they all labeled?
Nothing gets forged in Triforge?
That's all. Now that I'm saying it out loud, it seems a little silly that nothing would be forged at the Triforge.
Where the forges are built.
I was really just
I see what you're saying.
focused
though.
on one thing there. I think.
Well,
I think yeah, it makes sense to have things forged there.
Because basically what you're saying is you want there to be a relationship between Triforge and Coalwood, where Coalwood is where the products are, and Triforge is where the raw materials are gathered.
I guess I imagine. Yeah, that's kind of that's what
I think of
imagine.
this as like the mall. You know what I mean?
You know,
And this is like where all the stuff comes from.
it could be that there are things forged at the Triforge. Amazing swords with gems embedded in them. They're forged at the Triforge, but they're not magical until they're shipped out and they're received by people like Jupiter or Gordon or the Cobbler, who are able to enchant those items and then sell them as magical items.
What if people don't know what is forged at the Triforge? They just know only the best of the best goes into the building. I don't know. I've been seeing a lot of like Balenciaga memes lately, where they've been using AI to make like SpongeBob Balenciaga characters, where all the characters are like Balenciaga models and stuff like that. And I think of shit, where the fuck did that tangent? Where was that even taking me? I think of so like the thing is, what if I want to give the Triforge a little mystery, but that mystery could be granted somewhere else if you'd rather have. So like where? Well, maybe we should just establish like what all is going on and everywhere first.
Right here, these two places, you see they're a little bit different. This actually says Miners' Barracks. So this is where they're huge locations where all the miners stay at the end of the day. Down here, these are the little forges. These little things are like even smaller forges for like smaller items that are being created as opposed to these red ones, which are larger items. And I guess that's kind of what I imagine. Don't let what I imagine box you into any one thing, though.
Well,
Let's
you
add it
did
instead.
say some of these dwarves live entirely underground. So what if these like barracks? What if the buildings were like the tops of the barracks, and they like were structures that actually spiraled downward?
Downwards. That's so good. They're
And-
underground.
And you could even have like tunnel systems
They're
over.
connected. Yes, cannon. Make it so.
So
I love that.
So
Oh
we
my
have a
God.
bunch of dwarves that live over here, and they're sort of involved in this industrial, really whole kind of situation going on there.
Yeah, you know, you had talked to me about how you viewed this as a whole city in itself on its own. And the more we talk about it, I feel like the more accurate that is. Because the barracks are there, that's where
It's so
they all live,
huge,
they have a
too.
community, they have...
They have like 6 different industries going on.
Mm-hmm.
It's a massive, massive space with tons of resources.
But you know what they don't have?
A military?
Food.
Food.
They deal in products that are not edible, so they trade with Coalwood all the time for food.
Oh shit. So
about that?
they
I
need
just thought of
Coalwood. I love that. Yeah, I
Yes!
love that. Okay, so
Yes!
they need
That's a
Coalwood.
connection.
And Coalwood needs dwarven products. That's what I was thinking of, because I was saying this is like the mall, and I was saying like this is where all the juicy products get sold and where it comes from, but it's procured from like this ancient dwarven clan that split into 2 lineages ages ago, and they have like a whole industrial civilization up here in the corner. You know what's also interesting about that?
What?
Is if you smuggle this way, you're dealing with flying Aarakocra, Aulican, and like commando guards in the forest, right?
Yeah.
If you smuggle this way, you're dealing with like dwarves that creep up on you in the night, and all you see are like blue eyes in the dark.
Yes, yes, and other creatures of the mountain.
And they will like find you up in their territory.
There could be frost giants up there. You don't know.
Oh shit.
Who knows?
Yeah. Ooh.
Who
Okay.
knows?
Should there be frost?
Like there could be
That's a lot of territory.
Lord of the Rings style. There could be a spider in there.
Oh damn. Okay.
Shelob.
Okay. So all of this is really a pretty huge space. It's about the size of Coalwood itself, really. It sounds like the dwarves have a lot of this locked down over here, but it also sounds like, with the exception of the food, the dwarves are pretty self-sufficient, because are there other races trying to get in on this mining action? Are the dwarves cool with that? Or do-
I've thought about that, and in my head so far, all the miners are dwarves. There's not a single other race, and I don't know if that's because they're not allowed. I don't know if that's because it's like a family, like we were talking about, like generation goes by generations, or
So they have a monopoly. For one reason or another, the dwarves have a monopoly on the Great Salifax mountain range.
other races just don't know how to do it. They don't know the secrets to mining. It's the knowledge passed down from generations of miners.
What happens if you try and mine in the Great Halifax mountain range?
You might hit some gas and blow up because you don't know how to see it.
Oh, it's poisonous.
That was just off the top of my head.
That
like,
would be really interesting.
like
There was
thing.
a poison dragon that was trying to move in.
Well, what I'm getting at is maybe there are dangers in the mines that only the dwarven miners are able to see and anticipate because of the generations of knowledge that have been passed down. So, like, yeah, you could go in there and you can hack away just as good as a dwarf, but you might hack into a gas pocket that you don't see coming.
Got you.
Whereas one of those dwarf miners would be like, oh, I can tell by the sound of this chamber it's empty on the other side and therefore there's gas.
Any
You know?
dwarven child could tell you that.
Obviously.
Idiot.
Yeah. So that's the
Interesting.
difference.
Interesting. Okay, cool.
Oh, man.
Alright. Okay, so... What is power?
What? Sorry, I got
Murph.
distracted by the cat.
What does power look like at the Great Halifax mountain range and the Triforge?
What does power look like?
What does power look like? Who's in charge of the industries? First off, there's mining, processing, which might be part of mining. I'm not honestly too sure. There's logistics, because they have to ship it from here to here safely. And there are the smiths, and then there's like the top tier smiths from the sound of it.
I hadn't really thought about different levels of power, so that is a pretty blank canvas to work with.
Interesting.
But
Because that's a really big dwarven structure, and somebody has got to be responsible for it. And for keeping all the wheels turning. But it's almost like you've got this like kind of mercantilism set up where it's like I can almost see how you would have like, you know, lords and ladies of industry, you know, as opposed to like great houses or something like that.
oh my god,
Or like,
you're absolutely right.
or like the crafts people or something like that, you know.
So there isn't a character like that yet, but I can build one for the Triforge. A lady of the Triforge. By the way,
By the way,
I was gonna say, if you notice, a lot of my characters in here are gonna be female, especially a lot of the leaders in the world. The governor is a female. Nana Barry, people the townsfolk protect and love, is a
isn't
woman.
Barry a witch? She sure sounds like a witch.
I'll show you Nana Barry.
Everybody wears a sash that she made for them, and they
You know-
all love her. That sketches me out a little bit.
Well, I don't know. Did I already show you her? I don't know.
Everybody wears that?
Not everybody, just like the people, the farmers that she always visits every day, and she always she helps them farm, and she grows her berries there as well. This is Nana. Also, a fun fact: this is a dwarf. She's a dwarf. Female dwarves have facial hair, but their facial hair is usually much shorter. Like this.
Interesting. So they have like close cropped beards.
Usually.
And the male dwarfs.
They usually have more burly,
long,
long beards.
fluffy beards.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's just the dwarf that's kind of lived there for a long time. You can see her. She doesn't look like the other dwarf. She's not from this area. She's not a mountain dwarf. She's the other kind of dwarf. I don't remember. A hill dwarf? I
Hill
don't remember.
dwarf. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a dwarf. This is what happens to a dwarf when you take them out from underground and they
This is just-
aren't underground ever.
This is just a different race of dwarf.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Like they were never underground. They've always been
Right.
above ground.
Okay.
Yeah. But I didn't imagine her to be local, but I do imagine her to have been there for a very long time.
And what is her role within all of this? She's just loved by all?
She's the one that she kind of came to the town and settled down there, kind of near its beginning when it was still being developed a bit. And she just kind of found it to be a nice, quiet life, which is what she was looking for. And then she, kind of developed there. One time, this is part of Rusty's backstory, she went into town several hours away, bought some strawberry seeds, picked up Rusty on the way, and brought him back. And she grew and cultivated her seeds along with the farmers that were beginning to grow and cultivate their crops to be able to live there. And they kind of formed this bond and this sort of family at the beginnings of this town. Yeah, I'll show you the map again. Yeah. So somewhere within there, we'll say is strawberry seeds.
Okay.
Oh, I have no idea. How did I do that?
Mm-hmm.
That is so cool. Look at that. Miners Barracks. Now we can see it's written there.
I don't know how you did that.
Great self-facts. Now, how did I do that? I'm so good at computers when I don't mean to be. Well, now we have a magnifying glass I don't know how to turn off.
Oh my god.
But you can see the cows.
Nice.
You can see the cows
It's
now.
actually very detailed.
There's little pigs. I know I spent a lot of time on this. And they're eating slop. And you can see over here are chickens. There's corn and sunflowers and watermelon and onions and yeah.
What's going on over at Crimson Ridge?
Crimson Ridge. Crimson Ridge. In here, as you can see through my magnifying glass, is where the dragons had set up. There's an open cavern in there. It is now empty. It has been emptied and no one really goes there, I don't think. I haven't thought about that. Blank canvas. Crimson Ridge, that entrance, that is at the base of Crimson Ridge, which is the highest peak within the mountain range. The reason why it's called Crimson Ridge is because at a certain time every evening, when the sun is setting at just the right time, it turns this blood red for a couple minutes. But it stands out so much, even though it's only a couple minutes per day, that it was named after that.
Eerie. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of a lot of elements in here that are we could do political intrigue. There's the dwarves are kind of creepy. The avians are kind of creepy. These people want power. There's apparently tons of industry, huge amounts of wealth and resources in here. Mm-hmm. These guys are spying on everybody, which means they're probably also keeping an eye on these. It puts these guys in a great position to be really weird and sketch everybody out. Or be heroes if I almost want to do a story of factions. You know what I mean? Because it's if the gnomes and the avians are perfect enemies because they each have advantages over the other.
Perfect advantage over the other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then there's a lot of politics that could be played with here. There's a lot of smuggling that could be done around the outsides, banditry within the interior.
I just thought of something. The Aarakocra and the Owlins' favored method of disposing of enemies is to just sneak up on them, pick them up, fly up and drop them.
Just drop them. Ice cold.
That's their
Oh.
favorite method because it's just the easiest thing to do. As long as you can hold them long enough to drop them from a distance.
Oh my
from a height.
god, that is horrifying. So you know whenever somebody's like been killed by one of these things because you just hear them scream. You hear them scream all the way down and you just see them like falling.
Usually happens in the distance. Usually doesn't happen near town. They don't drop bodies on
So these
town.
things can just grab you and pick you up and carry you off.
I mean, they have to
This
do
is
a
the
grapple
most
check.
Big Brother shit.
Well, hold on. Let me see here.
Those
Let's
owlkin
go
just
to the
silently come up
washout.
on you in the dark, and they just carry you off, and nobody knows what happened to you.
Oh, I didn't get to it yet. I didn't get to their stats yet. That's okay. That means I can still build. Before you got here, I was plugging in everyone's stats.
You should make the avians really big and really strong.
Well, I mean, they are pretty big. Like, look at how big they are. Look at that wingspan.
Just grab a person by their shoulders and just haul them off.
And they got pretty nasty
Armor and
talons.
everything.
I figured their highest stat would be dex, but then their next highest stat could be strength if they are grapplers that grapple their victims in, you know?
That's freaky.
Yeah.
So during the day, the hawks can see you from like 3 miles away, and at night, the owlkin can just creep up on you.
They can also see you from a
They
distance.
can also see you in the dark. Interesting. So what did the gnomes want?
I don't know.
The gnomes are part of the regular town guard. So what if the gnomes...
Let me get my charger.
Because the gnomes are native. If the gnomes are native to the area, then the gnomes could very well be the most incentivized to be loyal to Coalwood itself, and less so much the other things. If Coalwood is more of like a I don't know, maybe not so much like a gnomish settlement, but like the gnomes were like a big part of it. The way that like Germans were a big part of Fredericksburg.
Maybe gnomes are a big part of Coalwood. And dwarf.
Well, because then you said they're all native to, and this place is surrounded by
By
woods.
woods, you're right. It kind of would make sense for there to be a lot of gnomes.
Because like until Coalwood, if you look at Coalwood right there, until that farmland was cleared out, until all that space was cleared out, it was a lot of woods. It was deep forest, and then a town was built in the center of like the deep woods. Because I assume this is like miles in this direction and probably miles in this direction.
Okay, so it would be like dwarves in Triforge area, gnomes in Coalwood area. Still a lot of dwarves that have migrated that live in Coalwood. So dwarves might be the second most popular.
It could very well be that like this is still kind of your like America mixing pot situation, but that the gnomes have a like actually loyal vested interest in it, whereas the Aarakocra, the Avians, showed up or granted this role in this military power, but are sketchy. Does that make sense? Like, so it sort of sets up the gnomes and Avians even more to be like, are the Avians really loyal? You know, they don't have the same kind of history.
They don't. You want to toss it up?
Sure. So if the gnomes are loyal to Coalwood, this one,
Yeah.
red.
So the gnomes, so sorry?
If the gnomes are loyal to Coalwood, then what is Coalwood up to?
do you mean, what is Coalwood up to?
What is going on in Coalwood? Because it can't just be doing nothing, right?
Say it again, sir.
It's probably doing something, right? Coalwood as like a state. Whoever's running Coalwood wants something as well.
So, she's not in the document yet because she was one of the last characters to be created. And I'm still working on her because I'm not totally happy with where she's at. But I'll show you who you're asking about. I don't even have a name for her yet.
Nice.
Yeah, the Governor's Keep and Farmer's Respite were the two last places to be developed, so they're the two places with the least. Oh, you're gonna love this though. You're gonna love this. Oh my god, you're gonna love it. Okay, here she is. She is a dwarf. You can see she has dark purple skin, so she is of the Mountain Dwarf clan, of the Forge Master clan, not the Prospector one, because she has darker skin. You can also see that her eyes are a lot different. Zoom in. They're like this gold and yellow, whereas like the Prospectors had this animalistic black, gray glow, and the Forge Masters have like violet purple eyes. Also, like I said, she is a woman, a dwarven woman, so she does have facial hair, but it's very clean cut. It's very styled in a like fun wavy way, cut close to the face. She also has with her a familiar. Is a little squirrel that she found in the forest. The squirrel is loyal to her. Little sneaky guy.
Interesting. So
Blends right in the forest.
She has ties to the forest, which gives her standing with the gnomes. And she has ties to
Oh my god, yes.
the Forge Master dwarves
Because of her race.
because of her race.
I can create a character that, if she's the governor, who would be someone that would be in her employ or an equal voice with hers. Because I would make them a force gnome as well. I could create that character. They don't exist yet. I'm just trying to think of.
So you want her to like share power with someone?
She could, or she could not. I didn't originally imagine her as sharing power with someone, but I did imagine her as an elected someone.
Elected.
Yeah.
So she's a good leader.
She is a good leader because the people like her and they have elected her.
So she's having trouble getting something. And she
Squirrel
needs
food.
squirrel food.
No.
There's not enough of it. Dwarves are eating all the squirrels. Dwarves are tired of all this vegetarian food.
Oh yeah. No, that's what the pigs
We want
and
some
cows
meat.
are for.
Okay, yeah,
They
that
raise
makes
them.
sense. Okay.
Some cows, they, when they can't produce milk anymore, that's when they slaughter them for the meat.
Interesting.
Which means they also have, like, male cows that might help as beasts of burden or,
I heard, I would listen to a podcast, a web DM podcast on dwarves recently, and something they mentioned was, since dwarves like their environment is underground, they don't have access to anything that's made from soft materials, like pigments for dyes, or like textiles, like clothes and stuff like that. Just a thought. There's things they could like trade for.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Totally.
So we do kind of have a setup here for different factions. We have the deep underground dwarves. we have the Prospectors and Forge Masters, who are supposed to be on the same side.
Mm-hmm.
The Forge Masters are completely underground. They kind of have their own kind of creepy vibe, in my mind's eye. So maybe we can kind of figure that out. And then there are, like, what sounds like rich merchants in the Triforge, the heads of industry.
Let's get out of here.
We have these avian guards.
Do you want me to add some more into this, or do you want to keep? I got some more, another flavor to throw your way.
Yeah.
Let's
Absolutely.
visit Jupiter's Jewels. We went there actually in the first episode.
Yes, flirty Jupiter.
Flirty Jupiter, that's right. Here is Jupiter. She is a wizard, enchanter, and an artificer. Of course, all this, their class can absolutely change. If you're like, that doesn't make sense, it would make more sense for her to be this kind of bard than...
Right.
So she's adorned with jewelry and like piercings, and she just has this very elegant, very like pristine, high fashion presentation, but also very charming. Let's
It was
see.
kind of like a Xerxes kind of look.
Yeah. Yeah, it says she grew up in a family of tiefling merchants. So I guess I imagined her as also being a bit nomadic, kind of like Nora. Maybe she and Nora know each other. But I don't know. She doesn't have to be nomadic.
She would be pretty important if she's capable of making like anything.
She enchants. She is the enchantress of the town.
The enchantress.
She is. She's the one to go to if you want a magic item, if you want to make a magic item.
In a town where like the best of the best is sold. It's like the domain. Interesting.
She is a tiefling. I just added another race.
Interesting.
Let me read this personality here. What I have, and you can go off of that. Jupiter is a shrewd businesswoman who is always on the lookout for a good deal. She is charming and persuasive, able to talk her way out of most situations. She takes great pride in her work and is willing to go to great lengths to ensure the quality of her enchanted item. Jupiter is also a bit of a risk taker, always looking for the next big opportunity.
Okay. So she's a powerful figure. Sounds like actually one of the most powerful figures. The stuff that comes out of Triforce, is there any magical capability to any of it?
You know, how about I imagine some of it has innate magical essence. Some of it is coal that you burn. And some of it is an innate magical essence that you can then pry like more magic out of, or if you know how to work with it. Does that make sense? Some of it are just magical, not magical, magnificent rubies, emeralds that are pure.
But mundane. I got you. And then some things aren't innately magical. I would be curious to know what sort of things are innately magical. Because that sounds like something that only the dwarves who have a monopoly on the mountains would have. And that might be something these other factions might be interested in obtaining it's just a hook, you know, a thing that they have.
Totally.
So I kind of get an idea of how these factions fit together. We just need to figure out where the conflict comes in.